Patriot is the most powerful unit in the game, but you need to know how to use it effectively. By the end of this video, you'll know all there is to know about this juggernaut, including a few secrets. Timestamps are in the description if you want to skip to a particular section. Your Patriot unit has all of the same abilities as a general, so first things first, head over to my guide to the general video, appearing at the top of your screen, where I explore these abilities in detail. Then head back here to find out what else the Patriot has to offer on top of that. In fact, I have several Rise of Nations guides, so feel free to check those out. If you find the content useful, please like and subscribe to support the channel, blah blah blah. Let's get into the video. We need to start this off by clearly explaining the many different names of this unit. If you're thinking, I have no idea what the Patriot unit is, maybe these names will ring a bell instead. The Senator, the Despot, the President, the Monarch, the CEO, and the Comrade. These are all different types of Patriot units. Which one your Patriot is called depends on which type of government you choose at your Senate building. Each of them have their own abilities, which we will discuss in detail. A quick note for those of you playing an original copy of the game. The Patriot unit was introduced in the Thrones and Patriots expansion, which was released in 2004. Yeah, nearly 20 years ago. Wow, I feel old. So if you're playing an old copy of the game, you won't have access to them. But if you're playing with the Thrones and Patriots expansion or the Extended Edition, all of this is applicable to you. You'll receive a Patriot for free once you've built your Senate building, which is first available in the Second Age, and once you've selected your government. You would be absolutely mad not to do this as soon as possible, as there are a ton of bonuses for choosing a government, and from your Patriot too. All of these Patriots have the same abilities as a general: forced march, entrenchment, create decoys, and ambush. Plus they provide a passive armor bonus to nearby troops. All of this can be upgraded at the fort in the same way as for generals. Before we get into the 6 individual Patriot types and their abilities, let's discuss the abilities they all share, over and above the abilities they share with generals, which I discussed in my generals video. You only get one Patriot unit, so look after them. You can bolster your army with multiple generals, but just one Patriot, so protect them at all costs. They can't attack or defend themselves, so they're basically a glorified cheerleader. But if the worst happens and they do die, they will respawn for free from your Senate after 30 seconds. The area of effect for their abilities is slightly larger than a normal general. How much larger depends on exactly which Patriot you have, but they're all larger than a normal general. Then finally, one of the key differences they share that sets them apart from a general is that they can't be bribed or sniped, making them much easier to defend than a general. Now let's look at the 6 individual Patriots. As I mentioned before, the type of government you choose will determine which of the 6 Patriots you will receive. The benefits of each government is outside the scope of this particular video. We will focus on each Patriot you receive as a result of your decision, and the benefits to each that sets them apart from each other. In the Second Age, you will have the choice of a despotism government or republic government. A very quick and dirty analysis of this is that if you're on the attack, go for despotism. If you're on the defense and focusing on your economy, go for republic. If you bear in mind that most games will be won or lost before you reach the Industrial Age, the Despot versus Senator choice in the Second Age is one of the defining moments of any game. The Despot is an absolute beast. I have a lot of love for this guy, so let's look at what makes him so intimidating. This guy functions like a supply wagon. If you're anything like me, you'll send your army into the enemy territory and completely forget about a supply wagon, forcing you into an embarrassing retreat with your tail between your legs. No problem with the Despot. Not only will this mean no attrition in his radius, but he also provides supply to artillery units, which increases their fire rate, which is very nice. If you enjoy slaughtering your enemies, then why not get paid for it? The Despot provides plunder for destroying enemy units, and also doubles the plunder for destroying buildings. Then last but not least, the Despot has double the line of sight of a normal general. Not just a little bit more, but double. So if you're feeling aggressive, the Despot is your guy. There is one final advantage to choosing the Despot, but I'm going to save that to the end of the video. So let's say you're feeling a bit boring and you're a bit of a wimp, you might consider choosing a republic government, which provides you with a senator. You can see it now, an old beardy man preaching about love and cuddles in the middle of a bloody battlefield, but let's give him a chance. This guy is all about defense. He provides +5 armor to buildings within his radius. He can also heal buildings and troops within his radius and within your territory. And finally, he can bribe enemy units and buildings that are within your territory, which is a really powerful defensive measure. I think the main point to take away from this is a lot of his abilities only work in your own territory and are about increasing your defense rather than your attack. I joke about this guy being boring, but I do actually really enjoy turtling in RTS games, even though it's a terrible tactic in this game. So I actually use the Senator more than the Despot to concentrate on my economy. If you're attacking, you've got to go for the Despot. He'll protect you from attrition, supply your artillery, provide a huge line of sight to seek out your enemies, and give you plunder as a reward for your destructive tendencies. If you're a wimp like me, go for the Senator, to help you defend while you build up your eco, tech up your army, and hopefully go on the counter-attack as you outpace your opponents. You'll notice this is a common theme as we progress through the other Patriot units. You'll be presented with your next choice when you reach the Gunpowder Age, where you get to choose between a monarchy or a democracy. A monarchy government and Mongols is a terrifying combination, but let's focus on the Monarch Patriot. They retain the supply wagon function that the Despot had, but added to this, artillery units move twice as quickly within the Monarch's radius. So if you play as Turkey, you'll want to seriously consider using the Monarch. On top of this, your cavalry will have an extra +2 attack and +2 armour within the Monarch's radius. As with the Despot, if you want to be on the offensive when you reach the Gunpowder Age, the Monarch is the way to go. The alternative is to go with the democracy government, which gives you the President. There's still an economic and defensive focus here, so you won't be surprised to hear that his specialities are increasing the speed of unit production buildings in his radius, buildings and troops heal in his radius, as long as you're not in enemy territory, and finally buildings are constructed 33% faster within his radius. So most of these abilities require him to be at your own city, rather than attacking the enemy. But this is a great way of churning out more troops and increasing the size of your cities. If you do manage to make it as far as the Industrial Age, you'll need to choose between socialism and good old capitalism. By now you should be able to predict which way this will be heading, but let's look at the detail. If you go with socialism, your Patriot unit turns into the Comrade. He functions as a supply wagon, but now all your units receive +2 attack and +2 armour. Then he assimilates enemy cities at 4 times the speed. Last but not least, if you choose capitalism, your government will receive the CEO. And I must admit, I do like the idea of a CEO just cruising around the battlefield in his car. Here are their abilities. As long as they're within range, all buildings and units heal, as long as there's no attrition damage. Units are immune to bribery and sniping, have +2 attack range and line of sight, with the exception of artillery. He also provides some increased economic benefits if he's near a city. The details are quite involved, but let's just say if he's near a city, you'll notice production of everything related to that city increase slightly. Something we need to highlight at this point is that after you select a new government, and therefore your Patriot changes, they don't retain the special abilities of the previous unit. For example, if you choose Republic, and therefore receive a Senator, then make the decision to go with Monarchy and receive the Monarch, your Monarch won't have the ability to bribe enemy units or heal friendly units. You've replaced those abilities with those of your Monarch instead, so bear that in mind when making your choice. It's always useful to discuss the most effective counters to such powerful units, and for the Patriot, the answer is quite straightforward. Ranged cavalry, which are the general counter to all support units, including generals and patriots. So in the earlier ages, we're looking at your horse archers, then horses with muskets, and in later ages the armoured cars, and eventually light tanks, known as armoured cavalry. These are your most effective tool, but going all in, having everything go for your opponent's Patriot, is often a good tactic too. Now, there's a sneaky upgrade, specifically for Despots, Monarchs and the Comrade, that I wanted to save until now, as I think it's rather powerful, but I've not seen anywhere in the game that actually tells you about this, apart from some rather small text on a particular upgrade. You'll remember that each general and Patriot has a maximum of 1000 craft, which gets used up while using their abilities, and you have to wait for it to recharge. Well, if you go to your smelter, you'll notice there are 2 technologies you can research. The one to focus on here starts with forage. Later in the game, you can further upgrade this with supply, and finally logistics. This research has a few benefits, but I wanted to highlight what it does to the maximum craft level for the Despot, Monarch and Comrade. It increases by 1000 each time to a maximum of 4000. That's actually crazy, because you can use 4 of the special abilities in a row without having to recharge. Once fully used up, it would take forever to recharge back to 4000, although this recharge rate can be increased by researching technology at the fort. But maybe you'll just want to kill your Comrade, knowing you'll get them back in 30 seconds instead. I certainly would not encourage such backhanded behaviour. When deciding which government to go for, clearly your nation is a big part of the decision-making process. I mentioned earlier, using the Monarch as Mongols is very powerful, due to both the Monarch and Mongols having bonuses related to cavalry. Pairing the Despot with Turks, with their complementary siege abilities, or the Despot with Aztecs to receive some serious plunder bonuses. And remember, when you choose a government, your opponent will receive a notification on screen. Likewise, you'll see theirs. So if you see them going for despotism, it's likely they're going for an aggressive approach. This is where the game becomes more complex and results in a myriad of strategies, which, in my opinion, is a big reason why many players are still playing today, or at least until Rise of Nations 2 comes out. Yeah, right. My final tip is to create a rally point on your Patriot. Simply select your unit creation building and right click on your Patriot, making him a moving rally point for your newly created troops to aim for. If you take this a step further, you can hotkey your barracks to F1 by selecting your barracks and holding Control, then F1. Then when you're running low on troops, you can hit F1 and create new troops, safe in the knowledge that when they're ready, they'll head straight to your Patriot unit to reinforce the fight. And you can do this all without having to look away from the battle. You can of course do the same with your stables and siege factory as well. As always, I aim to make these videos quick, and it ends up being a big bastard, but I'd rather give you all the information than cut things short. A big shout out to all those who have subscribed recently. I'm still a tiny channel of course, but I've doubled the number of subscribers in recent weeks, and it's great to see that so many players, old and new, are still interested in this awesome game. Please leave a comment below if you'd like me to look into something specific for you, otherwise I'll just keep churning out the Rise of Nation guides I guess. See you next time.